So this is all now had a chance to dry overnight. I mean, realistically you could do with leaving certain areas like our green putty here probably a bit longer, but I think it's just going to be enough, because I think we're going to be adding more filler to this anyway. I have had a little bit of a sand at say 1/2, okay, just to see how it all goes, and we're looking good. Now what I want to concentrate on is this wing section, because everything else is sort of pretty simple, but this wing section is really going to need some serious sanding. We're probably going to have to fill again, and then we're going to probably most likely be doing some proper serious scribing to get it all back in there nicely. So what we could do, we come along with some of these standing sticks, which, just to let you know what they are, 1 second. These are made by Flurry Models, and you get 3 sanding sticks in the pack. I buy mine from modelsargo.co.uk, really nice online website. And what you get is you get 3 sanding sticks, and there are different courses. Okay, you've got a really coarse sanding stick, and then you got like a coarse sanding stick but not as coarse as the other, and then you turn them both over, and again you go down to like a medium grit, and then you go to a little bit less of a medium grit, and then you've got this final one here, which is shall we say 2 nice fine sanding grits. So you've got a lot of different kind of sanding grits, so that you can work your way through the grits, you know, starting with a nice coarse one and working your way down to the fine sanding grit. What else you can buy, which I like from Flurry Models, is you also get a set like this, okay, another 3 sanding sticks, but you get these sponges. Now these sponges are identical, okay, they're both exactly the same, but you get 2 because they do kind of wear down a bit, and this is just like a really nice, even finer than what you get with this set, but they're in the sponging kind of sanding stick. So you work your way through these grades, and then you can work your way to this grade, which is like a really fine sanding stick, but it's a sponge, so it goes with the curvature of the model. And then you can finish off with a nice polishing stick, which the green side is like a really mega fine sanding stick, so fine that it sort of puts a little bit of a sand stroke polish to it. But then the white side, you can really feel it, it's really smooth, and when you polish with this, I mean, you can literally polish up canopies to a nice shiny glassy finish, okay. And to talk a bit more about sanding sticks, what you also can get, I've actually got the bags as well, hold on, I'll just get them out for you. You can get these, okay, these are the skinny sticks, right, and you've got 4 options, okay. You've got the sponge, which is basically exactly the same as these but skinny, okay, and you get a pack of 10. I think they're around about, these are around about £4. I think this one's, you know, I think you're talking about £4–5 per pack or something like that. It's around about that kind of region. You also get the skinny sticks versions of these, as you can see, and you get 10 in a pack, so they can last quite a while, and they are really nice. I do like these sanding sticks because you've got all the different grades you need, but then I also like how you get the skinny sticks to get into those real nasty, hard to reach nooks and crannies, okay. So it's really good to kind of have a nice set of these sanding sticks to really be able to do what sanding you need to do. Okay, so back to our wing here. Now I'm going to come in with a coarse sanding stick, because if you remember there was a lip here. Okay, this is why you probably see there is green putty on the left and not much on the right, because we've actually got a lip. So what we want to do with a really coarse sanding stick, just start to lightly, okay, lightly apply pressure and just lightly start to sand away at the area. Okay, we don't want to go mad because we've got a really coarse sanding stick here. Okay, and because it's coarse, really coarse, you're going to be applying scratches to our area, and when we apply scratches, it means we're going to end up having to go throughout different grits to get rid of, not only to kind of like smooth this down really nice, but then to also get rid of all the scratches we do from our coarse sanding stick. Okay, we just want to lightly get rid of the work. Now if you want, you can go through all 6 different grits, but I like to kind of go down, I like to go with this coarse, the coarser side, then go to like the medium grit like I am now. I've just turned it over. Okay, and when you turn it over and you go to the next grit, you want to apply that bit more pressure. Okay, because you want to start to like work this into the plastic now and really start to smooth everything down. Start to remove the scratches that you've done with the coarse sanding stick. Okay. Now, I mean, you could, if you want, a little bit of moisture in the area and give this a bit of a wet sand now. And what the wet sand does, it just smooths things down that little bit more. However, I do find that it kind of, shall we say, reduces the lifetime of your sanding stick when you use a when you use water. Although you can get it smoothed down a bit nicer by using water, as I say, it's going to be a bit more costly. Okay, so I'm just keep on going at this, and this is starting to feel quite nice and smooth, and I'm not really feeling that lip much anymore. Okay, but there is just a slight bit of a lip still going on, but it's definitely starting to be taken care of. Okay, yeah, so just keep feeling it, seeing how it's going, and it's just getting there to the point where it feels like it's all nice and getting smooth, it's all kind of the lips going, and then once you've done that part, you then just want to just smooth everything out. Okay, so that's not feeling too bad now. So I'm going to my fine sanding stick, and I'm now just kind of like smoothing off the plastic, polishing, starting to polish it up, starting to get out all the scratches from all our coarse and medium grits. Okay, just to get it all nice and smooth, so that our paint work will look really nice, and it will be like the rest of the model, all nice and smooth. Okay, now I'm using the spongy, the fine sponge sanding stick, and this is gonna really kind of, shall we say, put a nice smooth surface. Okay, and it's gonna put those curvatures back in because it's a sponge. Okay, and that's feeling quite nice. It's not quite there, but it is feeling quite good. Now, this is, shall we say, fine enough, I would say, most of the time, to kind of say that is as smooth as you need to get it. But you might be doing, say, gloss work or something like that, so you might want to come along and use like this polishing stick, which just really polishes it up and really makes the plastic turn shiny, okay, which is actually makes a really nice surface to come along and do gloss work, okay. And when you hear that squeaking basically means that you are getting a really nice polished surface, okay. So it might be a bit annoying, but it is a good sign. And I don't know how well you can see that now on camera, but that plastic is looking quite shiny, okay. That's the effect that this has. So now we've done that, okay, what we can do is we can like rescribe in our panel lines that we have in some places completely and utterly obliterated, okay. So I want to put them back in, and then I want to put some paint on this to like see how we're doing, okay. Now because we've obliterated some of these panel lines, we need to use tools like this scribing template. So what you can do is, where you want your panel line, just line it up really nicely using panel lines that are already still there, just to kind of get it lined up nicely. And then you just want to place your P cutter where you want it to start and very lightly drag it along our template. Now when I say lightly, we're not digging down and cutting it all out, okay. We're just lightly giving it a little drag along, okay. Virtually almost using the weight of the P cutter to do the cutting, okay. And what I find is, once you've done a few cuts, you've got enough of, say, a trench, okay, to basically go freehand, and you can just nicely cut it to the size and everything that you want. So I've just cut that in there, that side, but then we've got this other side to cut in, okay. Sometimes you might want to put the P cutter in an already existing panel line, then bring the template up to the P cutter, and then you can drag along to where you want it, okay. So it's best to do lots of light, shall we say, cuts, than to do one big, deep, humongous scratch all the way along and end up making it all nasty and unneat, okay. And once you've got a bit of a trench going, you can go freehand if you wish, okay. Now we put that panel line, that recessed panel line, back in there, that once what was obliterated by all the sanding. We have got a bit of a panel line here, from what I'm seeing, that is not completely gone, but there's enough there to have a guideline to go freehand if you want to do that, which is what I have got a bit accustomed to, okay. And what I've done there is took a light panel line and I've made it like the rest of the panel lines, okay. We've got another panel line here. This one again has been almost obliterated, and the filler has actually, the green putty has actually got into the panel line as well, so that's removed the panel line too. So I'm just going to line this up, okay, make sure it's all good. I'm going to do a nice light cut and do another one, and keep going until you've got a bit of a nice recessed panel line, and then you can come along if you want, making it a little bit deeper freehand. Okay, and that actually looks quite good now. It looks like we put everything back in. Now you're probably wondering, I have said that we're probably going to have to come along and give this a bit more of a fill, because it is quite a tough, shall we say, recess to sort out. And you're probably thinking, why am I doing this now? Well, I do like to try and keep my recess panel lines in there as much as possible. I do this because I know that, you know, if I've just sanded that just, and I've like obliterated some of my panel lines, and I know if I fill this again, sand it again, potentially we could fill again and sand again. By the end of all that filling and sanding, I mean, these panel lines are going to be virtually, you know, you could end up like taking away like loads and loads of your panel lines. And what I like to do, I like to keep on top of my scribing. I like to keep putting the panel lines back in, so that after each stage of sanding, I know I'm going to have those panel lines sort of still there. You know, some of it might be gone, some of it might be light, but you know, I like to be able to keep enough of the panel line in there just to come along and just still have a bit of a outline to be able to follow and rescribe, and just kind of keep that detail there. Okay, so that at the end you're not trying to guess, okay, where was there a panel line there or not. Okay, you know, because sometimes some detail you totally obliterate and you wouldn't even notice that there was a panel line there, and you could end up not actually putting the panel line back in there unless you kind of follow diagrams or something like that. So I like to keep on top of that. So now that we've had a good go at filling, sanding, scribing that, we can like do a bit of a paint on of black and just see exactly what work is left to do on this. So we're just painting, you know, a quick blast of black. Okay, nothing special. Okay, maybe a little bit of water to this paint. Okay, get a nice coverage just to see what's left. I mean, you could spray this if you want, but then, you know, that's up to you. Right, so let's speed this up with a bit of cutting to air on our airbrush. It should dry reasonably quick. Right, and that's reasonably dry now, so you can now use like the light and just kind of maneuver it and see what's going on. Okay, and I think what we need here, by looking at this, is although it looks quite nice and it does feel quite nice, I think we could do with just say about a 1000 grade Mr. Surfacer. Give it a shake first, because although we've got rid of this lip and it does look nice, we do have a bit of a iffy sort of line still going through where the join was. Okay, and to be honest with you, I think that is actually supposed to be a panel line. You know where these two pieces actually went on? I think this is actually a panel line itself, to be honest. So we might have to kind of scribe in a line going across there as well. Okay, so now we're using the 1000 grade Mr. Surfacer, and what this is the same as the 500 that we used before, but it's just a lot thinner, and by being a lot thinner it can get into those smaller gaps that say the 500 might not be able to get into. Okay, so I've just applied that now to that, and then we can see how well that looks, and we can give it another sand. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now with our wing here, is just keep on, you know, filling, sanding, scribing, fill, sand, scribe, and as like the join kind of gets more and more filled in, you know, if you have to keep on filling it, just work your way through the different grades, getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and it should eventually take care of it. Okay, so what we want to look at now is our fuselage section. Okay, so I'll finish this off off camera, those wings. Okay, now the fuselage section, if you remember, we got our windows here. Now with these windows, they're going to need a bit of elbow grease, because we do have quite a bit of a lump, okay, where our super glue has made kind of like a lump, and what we want to do is we want to sand this lump out. Okay, so we want to go for our biggest grit we've got, and we just want to really take this lump out that we've got with our super glue windows. So really just don't really mess about, just kind of get that nicely sanded out. Okay, bring it to around about the same level as the rest of the plastic. But what you don't want to do, okay, you don't want to go absolutely nuts, okay, so that you end up like literally sanding bits of plastic here, there and everywhere around it like mad, okay, because the plastic is going to sand out a hell of a lot quicker than the super glue, and you could end up really going nuts and ruining some of the plastic around where our super glue is. Now I've just quickly sanded away the lump. Okay, so what I want to do now is actually, well, first off we may as well get rid of our seam line all the way along. So a nice light sand with our coarse sanding stick all the way along, just to give the whole spine of our fuselage section a nice bit of a sand. Okay, now because this has got a bit of a flat top, I am kind of doing a bit of damage. I'm actually kind of doing a bit of sanding actually on the sides here, along here. Okay, rather than kind of getting it where we want it, which is right in the middle where we've got our filler. So this is where I'm going to come in with a coarse skinny stick, and instead of sanding this way, I'm going to start to sand this way. Okay, I'm going to sand along this direction, so that I'm actually targeting the area that we want really nice. Okay. So I'm just going to work my way along here. Okay, and then we can turn this one over to the a medium grit and start to sort out the scratches that we've done with our coarse sanding stick, and to start the process of smoothing out our seam line. And we can come in with a big one just to take care. And this is, I'm going still with a medium grit now, and I'm just going to take care of everything here, because we have made some scratches along the sides with our coarse, so we need to sand them out. Okay, quite heavy actually there, which is not good. So we've got to sand them out, and that's probably through trying to sand out our super glue. Just there. Okay, so that's had a good sanding now. Coming in with the fine sanding stick all the way along. And what you're probably finding, because we've took out the our super glue windows, we've really sanded it down to the same level as the plastic, that we can just simply, while we're doing the whole kind of seam line along here, we're also taking care of our super glue windows. Okay. And again, let's get a fine sandy, skinny stick. Okay, and we just want to work on our spine area, our seam lines down the spine of this fuselage, just to make sure that we get it. Okay, maybe have a bit of a focus on our super glue windows, just to make sure we're getting them. Okay, and all the way down. Okay, now that's feeling, actually that is feeling a little bit on the warm side as well. And that's another note, is that you can end up going pretty mad with the sanding to the point where actually the plastic starts to really warm up. Now if you sand too much and it gets really warm, okay, you can actually start doing, shall we say, melting it slightly, which can then have a bit of a nasty effect on your actual finish. So if you feel that it's getting a bit too warm, put it to one side, work on something else, and let it cool a bit. Okay, but I think we should be alright, it's not that hot. Now what I want to do is with our windows here, I just want to give that a polish, okay, and kind of get these nice and shiny. And as you can hear, right, we have actually probably done a really good job sanding this, because you can hear the actual squeaking. The squeaking means you're sanding at, well, polishing should we say, a really smooth surface. Okay, and you can keep going and going and going at this and buff it up really, really nice. Okay, and that is looking nice and smooth. Okay, so again with this one we can check to make sure we're all good by simply painting along our seam line. I might actually just paint all the way around, because as I said before, we were scratching the sides as well, and by painting this black on we get to see, you know, what scratches we've put on the sides, because the last thing we want is scratches showing up from our very coarse sanding stick when we spray. Okay, little problem with the camera there, but I was just painting down the black, and what I've done is, by painting down this black, what we get to see is what our seam lines are like. And I'm looking at this now, and actually they're not perfect, shall we say. There are still, you can just see seam lines here noticeably and here, and what I've done there is I've just sanded down the black paint, and I can do this here just to show you as well. By sanding down this black paint, okay, we get to see even more what kind of imperfections and what kind of problems we've got. Okay, so I'll just sand away a nice little bit. Okay, and there we go. Now we can look at this, and as you can probably see on camera, we've got this black line, kind of going down our spine of our fuselage. What that is the paint, the black paint, has gone into the little seam line, and when we've sanded it away, because it's in the seam line, we can't sand away this bit of black we've got here, and that shows us that we've got a seam line to sort out. What it also does as well, which is quite noticeable up here, you can see it looks a bit dirty, but if you look at it close enough, it's actually lots of tiny little scratches that have been left over from like our coarse sanding stick, the medium coarse. You know, it just means that we've just got to sand that out a bit and smooth it off. And what we can do is simply with this nice fine sponge sanding stick, we can give this a bit more of a pretty heavy, really go for it sanding. Okay, and what we should be able to do is just sand out them little scratches just like that. See how you're seeing more of a nicer, cleaner plastic, and it's not kind of looking a bit dirty. And if you look closely, those scratches have been taken out there, and that's what we want to do all the way along here. We want to just sand it until all this black has gone, until all those little kind of micro scratches have gone, and this paint will show you, and you'll be able to visibly be able to see the imperfections you've got. And by giving a quick, good, rough going at with this fine sanding stick, we can take care of all the imperfections. But we've also got these seam lines to still sort out. So because these are little tiny seam lines, this time I'm going to go for our Mr. Surfacer 1200 grade. Okay, and this is getting even thinner. Okay, now with this one we might come along and we might put a couple of coats on. Okay, but this should hopefully nicely get into these little tiny seam lines that we've got left. Okay, so I'm just going to go along this seam line again. Okay, and as you can see, we've still got some black going on just here, so we want to just take care of that. And we may as well play it safe, say stuff it, and we'll just go all the way along the back. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is with this piece is just keep on doing this until our seam lines are completely gone, and this way we'll have a really nice, good looking fuselage section, which you'll find it impossible to see the join marks, and you'll actually think, was this all one piece? And that is what you're aiming for. Okay, so now this piece I'll sort out off camera. We've also got our cockpit area, and we want to do the same here. Come in nice, very coarse, quick light sand. I think we've got a little bit of a step on this one as well, so maybe give it a bit more of a oomph just to take the step out. You can tell that there's a step because you end up getting one half has got filler and the other half hasn't, so there's clearly a step there. Okay, and just at the back of here as well. Okay, then turn it over to your medium. Okay, and this is already looking good. Crack on with fine. Just polishing it, starting to polish it up. Okay, and then we can get in here with our sponge. Really give it some welly. Right, and that should look good when we put a bit of paint on. Okay. Now this top one here, think I'll come in with just a medium because it doesn't look that bad. Where's my medium? There it is. Yeah, this one isn't that bad. So a nice medium sorts that out. Work your way through again. All the way through the different grits. Okay, and that looks good as well. And that was pretty quick. So you can get quick at this sanding if you crack on and just remember your different grits. Okay, so I'll test that out off camera because what I'd like to do now is actually look back at our wing here, because I know this, I want this to be really nice and we don't want something nasty going on here. So with this we want to come in with, I'm thinking just a medium to start off with, because we have given this quite a bit already and we've only just filled this in. I think it was the 1000 grade Mr. Surfacer, so we shouldn't really need to come in with coarse. Okay. Okay, get the fine out. You can come in at different angles as well if you want to. Okay, now I've got a bit of, as you can probably tell, you can see like the two different greys. You've got like the plastic grey, and then we've got our surfacer grey, and there's quite a bit left there actually, but it does feel nice by actually leaving some of that filler there. So don't think that you have to get rid of all the filler except in the gaps. You know, because sometimes when you've got lips going on and stuff and little steps, sometimes it's good just to leave that filler in there and actually become part of the surface of the plastic. Although after giving it this little fine sanding, it has taken it out a bit more, but yeah, that does feel quite nice. Okay, and we do still have, and see, this is the thing why I say scribing after, like every time you sand, because you can actually see that we've still got our panel lines quite nicely there, which we would not have if we didn't give it a bit of a scribing after every time we do a sanding. So this is nice and easy to follow now, simply freehand and not having to get your templates out and, you know, trying to get them all nicely back in as they were. And even so, I mean, some of you might find freehand a bit tricky, but it is one of these things that after so many models you can pick up the experience. You know, and if you can start doing freehand, it just makes things a lot quicker and sort of easier, and it can be just as neat. Okay, so let's have a check with some black paint and a paintbrush, and let's see how this is getting on. See if we need to add more filler. Nice bit of black paint. Okay. Do a bit of a speed dry. And that is, it's not dry yet, but it's looking quite good. Oh yeah, that's looking really good now. Okay, that is very nice now. That is all sorted. We can do one last thing. One sec. And that is, we could potentially put a recessed panel line on here, because I think there is, although it's a join mark, I think there is, where the join line is, there's supposed to be an actual panel line, I think. But I'm not totally sure about that. So I'll tell you what, if you're not sure, you can either just go with it, do whatever you want to do, or you can just, you know, have a look at some research photos, reference photos, that kind of stuff, and then you can decide whether to put it in or not. So I'm just going to look at some reference photos and put that recessed panel line in if it needs it later on. Okay, so what I need to do now, I need to go off camera and basically sand all these little bits and bobs, because I think I've done enough on sanding now to kind of give you a nice idea, you know, about kind of just basically just sanding this up. And once this is sanding up, we can crack on with the next stage.